this moment in time, looking over at all of you, my first thought is to say goodbye, my friends. That unexpected day has arrived, and I'm leaving you, my friends, with so much left unsaid. Goodbye, my friends. Time has flown by like a summer breeze, and now I realize I didn't tell you enough that I love you. So for now, goodbye, my friend. I love you. Goodbye, my
Robert Wayne Bob Birch. Born July 14, 1956, died August 15th of this year. He was an American musician from Detroit. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bob Bauer, and it's my honor to host this tribute to a friend by his friends. Bob. His friends called him Bobby. Birch. And these are some of his boyhood friends, and they are here to tell you who Bobby was, where he came from, and what he was all about. I know everybody here, we go back a couple of years. I wish we were meeting under different circumstances, but this here is an old friend. His name is Jimmy Risk, and he's been doing the hog's share of the work on this program that you're about to see here today. And it's good to see you, Jimmy.
Thanks, Bob. I want to introduce Paul Ventimiglia, who was the best friend of Bobby Birch. I want to introduce his two cousins, Jimmy and Michael Romeo, who were, they were closer than cousins. And the reason that we're doing this show, essentially is because we're here to tell the story. If you were reading online media, if you were reading all of the things that followed Bobby's death, you saw the knee-jerk reaction that the media would have when somebody of Bobby's stature would end his life. And we're going to talk a little bit in the beginning here because we're going to have a lot of friends calling in, but we're going to talk just a little bit about what and how maybe it all came to be. For those who don't know, Bobby Birch was, before he was about to take the stage in Montreal 17 years ago, he was hit by a truck. He was thrown across the street with his back broken and both legs broken. I remember seeing Bobby in his LA home about a month or two after it happened, with all of the rods and all of the things that were protruding from his body. And I rooted for him like anybody would root for him, but I never believed he would walk on a stage again. I mean, it was hard to fathom. But he did. He walked on stages for the next 17 years with unbelievable pain. I used to go to LA quite a bit, and I would see Bobby at intervals, and I would say, "How you doing, Bobby?" And Bobby would never. Bobby was selfless. He would never complain about anything, and you'd have to pull it out of him about his pain. And finally, I'd say, "Well, how do you get through it?" And he'd say, "You know what I do, Jimmy? I get on my bike and I go straight up a mountain every day. And it's the only time I'm not in pain." So it was just the exhilaration of going straight up a mountain on a mountain bike that would make him forget about his pain. Because when he got to the bottom of that mountain, it started all over again. So, he had an unbelievable capacity or high threshold for pain. It was unbelievable. And I think if it would have just been that, he could have kept going. I really do. I mean, Bobby was just an indestructible kind of guy. But things started to happen in his body. Horrible things. Loss of weight. Couldn't keep food down. I mean, as you know, Bob, chronic pain, you can't walk a mile in my shoes unless you've been in my shoes.
Well, I've done a lot of interviews with a lot of people over the years, a lot of doctors. I have a friend who's a PhD, and we've talked about chronic pain, and it is a debilitating thing. And the further it goes on, and the more you realize that there's nothing they can do, and you have to live with it. And how many years did he go?
17.
17 years.
Count the amount of hours in 17 years, because if you take away the sleeping time, which was minimal, he was in pain the entire time.
Well, pain has a way of tapping you of your mental, emotional, and spiritual resources.
Yes.
And in a lot of cases, when somebody ends their life, it's a stigma in American society, and people say, you know what, that person is weak. Well, nobody knows that
Right.
except the person who does that.
Right.
But anybody who's in constant pain for 17 years, it saps your strength. He wasn't the same person that he was before the accident. You can't be.
No.
It's mentally impossible for that to be that way.
Michael?
Bobby's personality was never about Bobby. You know, Bobby was quiet, didn't get real personal with a lot of people. So he never let on about his pains. He never complained, bitch. There's a lot of people in the world.
Oh, yeah.
That's all they do is bitch. But Bobby, you know, he never really was a bitcher to most people.
Right.
You know, so that made it even harder for him probably to deal with because he wasn't that way. When he was with somebody, you were the world right then and there with him. And
Right.
It was not about Bobby. It was about whatever you guys were talking about, or Bobby was never that way, you know. So it was probably even harder for Bob, you know, to keep everything in. Obviously, he talked with his wife about it, but,
Sure.
you know.
And Michael, what happened in the last 45, 60 days with his loss of weight? And
You know, for me, Bobby he wasn't talking to me about that. Paul got to see Bobby, which I wish I could have made that trip now. But Paul had gone to record, and Bobby got a little open with Paulie. You know, my conversations with Bob recently were just general and how you doing, how you feel, what do you do in Rome's, you know, that kind of stuff. Where are you? You know, Bobby's humor. You know, we would laugh and jerk off and talk about, you know, Terry Kath or Chicago, because we're Chicago freaks.
Fans, yeah. Big
And,
time.
you know, that kind of stuff. But Paulie had a little bit of a heart-to-heart, as much as Bob does a heart-to-heart.
Right. You want to share that?
Yeah, it's a little hard for me, but Michael kind of hits it on the head when he says that Bob was not about Bob. And I know specifically we're talking pain here, but also the time I got to spend with him, but especially towards the end. Interesting because I didn't know half the people he played with or recorded with until after he passed away. Interesting, because he never talked about it. It was never about him. Everything was always about somebody else. And
Right.
he had a way where he always treated the busboy, he treated the valet guy, he treated the person at the drive-through window the way he would treat Elton or Keith Emerson or the guys in Chicago wherever he hang with. He treated them all as rock stars, and that's who Bobby was. When we were together, it was one of the first times that he'd ever really expressed how bad his pain was. And Bob, as a friend, used to do something for me that I'd never asked him to do, but we'd get together probably for about 3 or 4 or 5 days, maybe every year for the last maybe 18 years. And this was something Bobby used to do for me because I think he knew that this was something I needed to do. And it was sort of a selfless thing. He just kind of said, this is something I need to do for my friend Paul. And we would write, we'd be creative. And even at that time when he was in the most pain and he was expressing it, he still insisted on we finishing 10 songs before we left in 5 days. He still insisted that we were going to get something on track and we were going to work on something because it wasn't about him. He just put that always aside. And when he would talk about his pain, he would talk about it for a second, then he'd move on, you know. And if I would bring it up, he would kind of go, we had other things to do. And unfortunately, I got to see him before that got bad. But I feel that, from what I understand, is that after I left is when the timing was when he really started to went down for him.
He
And
started losing weight, and
Yeah.
do you think that maybe he might have got some bad news as well, physically?
I don't think so.
It was the pain had taken its toll,
They couldn't find anything.
except all the rods and the pins and the.
You know, Jimmy and I were talking about this. I think he was trying to fix a lot of things individually. You know, he was trying to go to a dentist because he thought the headaches from TMJ. He thought his stomach was from the pancreas. He thought his shakes from his hand was from neuralgia. The autopsy times tended to say differently. You know, and if you've never ever known anybody with any kind of nerve pains or any issues with spinal cords or any that kind of damage, it affects the rest of your organs.
Sure.
And I think he was looking for fixes along the way for individual things when there was probably one central thing that was going bad for him. And I think it got to a point where, again, to kind of put it in Michael's terms, you know, where it was never about Bobby. I believe as his friend that what he was thinking towards the end was that I'm not going to put this burden on anybody else. And I don't want anybody to take care of me. And I think, again, he was thinking of everybody else and not himself.
It's probably the first time Bobby thought about Bobby. It was right then and there.
Okay. And what about you? Did you get a chance to talk to him, I mean, over the last year or so before he passed?
Yeah, I think it was May, right, Laurie? March? It was at, Laurie and I went down to Florida, and the day we got there, Bob was working that night at the Germain Theater. And so he invited us to the show. And, you know, he shows up in his boots and his shorts and his army fatigues and looks like the elevator guy operating the...
Or a rock musician from Detroit.
or a guy from Detroit.
Right.
But, yeah, and he was, you know, he was very loving and very generous, and we ate and we talked and we had a good time. Didn't mention anything. I could see that we all know that Bob was in pain for many years, you know.
Right.
I had a small little back problem myself, and we used to talk about it a long time ago. But from 20 years ago till today, we've never talked about it. It's always been about family with Bob.
Right.
It's, you know, cuz, how are you? You know, it was a real good, quick love, food, meatballs. You know, he bragged about his meatballs like Brian brags about his meatballs. The same thing. Real quick, real honest, and it was all about music and his family. Talked a lot about his son and his son's future. Talked a lot about music and what's new, what's happening, you know, and what he's thinking about, and that was about it. Never complained. It was never a selfish moment.
So now, go ahead.
I was going to say, when Bobby got in his accident, not many people got to see him like that, but I went with Danny. I called Danny right away, his brother, and he said that he was going to drive, and I said, I'm going to go with you. And Bobby was messed up, man. He was hurt bad. Not many people saw that, but we did. He was bad. So that's all I have to say about that.
Can you?
You're going to get your chance in a second.
Well, I didn't know Bobby's brother was going to be here.
Oh, yeah. Danny
Nice to meet you. Got to look forward to talking to you. So, all right. So let's backtrack. You guys all grew up in the same neighborhood. I would assume that you guys grew up in the same neighborhood. What was that? Where'd you
East
grow?
Detroit, we grew up. Us guys. And Bobby grew up in St.
Oh,
Clair
you
Shores.
together. Oh, okay. All right. Well, he was your cousin. What school? Okay. Is there a school thing going on there? He went to, and you guys went to. Did you have that whole thing going on?
Our parents were Chet and Barbara Birch and Jack and Yolanda Romeo. We were basically weekend and weekends and weeknights, and we were thrown together. We were either, was celebrating something or eating together.
There was no food going on.
No food, no drinks. But we were very lucky with our parents getting together and keeping families together. So that's where we developed our relationships, as cousins and everything else. But that was always happening. Every Christmas, every birthday, every celebration, everything.
Now, the Romeos and the Pastorias and everybody in the room knows that you guys were DC Drive, Adrenaline, and whatever bands that there were before that. Did you guys ever get a chance? Did you guys jam with Bobby? Especially
we had a band. Paul then had a band, and we all played in it with Bobby. Paulie?
Yeah, well, this was sixth grade we're talking, though.
Okay, going all the way back.
Yeah,
Right on.
and since it was my band and I played piano, we played all Elton John songs, so I still take credit for him getting that gig, or at least being primed for it anyways.
Right on.
But between the Romeos and the Birches, they were the only ones that let us practice in their basement, which is really why we probably came together.
So how did we come to the fork in the road? How did he leave Detroit and you guys didn't go with him?
He was playing with his brother and Martha, Danny's wife, for years and years and years. And I guess one day he decided that he was going to go to L.A. and take a shot. Like 82, 83, was it? 81.
81. Did you guys know he was going? Or did you all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember the day he jumped in a station wagon, wasn't it? A green truck.
Well, Danny helped him paint it. Danny helped him paint the green truck.
Hi, Jojo.
I remember it.
Then they just that was it. He took off.
It's the classic story about Cat throwing his guitar or his drums or whatever in the back of the truck and going to L.A. with $15 in his pocket and family going, "Where are you going to stay?" "I don't know, man. I'll go sleep on the beach."
Yeah.
Classic story.
It reminds me something too when you say that because I followed 6 months later after him. But when I got there, I had it easy because he'd already found me a place to stay, found me some roommates, had me set up for auditions for gigs. He made it easier for me, which is what he did pretty much his whole life for most people he knew.
Okay, let's hear some favorite stories. And remember, this is the internet. We don't have to bother with the FCC. So
We never cared about the FCC.
good. Because you don't have to worry about it now.
I've got a number of stories, but one that is just that I couldn't stop thinking about, and I never will. And that was Bobby's first day on a big stage. Now he had played with Jose Feliciano, and he had done some of those things, but he had never.
That would be a pretty big stage.
Yeah, but I mean, I was going to London quite a bit at the time, and Bobby said, "Hey, look, we're rehearsing in Paris. We're going to open up in I think it was Oslo, Norway." And they were doing a couple small dates in Leeds and Brighton, England, but his first major date would be at Wembley Stadium. And so I timed the trip. I actually stayed with him in the hotel for about 3 days, and it blew me away because I watched Bobby in California on a weekly basis when I was living there. Just take that key and put it in that old blue truck and throw his bass in the back and on autopilot go to his next gig. I mean, sometimes he'd be just sicker than a dog. He seemed like he got sick a lot, colds and stuff. And I'd meet him at Dupar's for pancakes the next morning, and we played till 3. So I'm in London. We're sitting in his hotel room. I'm watching him shave. I'm watching him get ready for the biggest date of his life. And it's like it's nothing. I said, "Bobby, going on in Wembley State, they're going to sell this out today. That's $80K. That's not 20."
Right.
He said, "Yeah, it's going to be cool."
It's not the Royal Oak Music Theater.
So we get down to the hotel lobby, and there's a couple of limousines ready to take the bands into Wembley, and they were stalled for some reason, and Bobby looks at Guy and says, "Let's take the Tube," which is the subway in London. And I wanted to go in the limo, to be honest with you. So I followed him, and I had my camera and took my pictures of him and Guy. Guy was one of his closest buddies, frolicking on the train, just goofing with each other. And all this stuff is running through my mind about what he's done to get to this point. And he's on this train like a kid, goofing around. But then we walk in, we get credentialed, and we walk to the back of the stage. And, it took my breath, because when you look from backstage to 80,000 bobbing heads, as far as the eye can see, it takes your breath. And Bobby, am I right or wrong? Nothing fazed Bobby, but that fazed him. His eyes got like dinner plates.
Okay.
And he looked out at that crowd, and I knew the moment had caught up to him. And then the road manager took the guys away. And I'm watching Bobby walk away, and I wrote about this. It was cathartic for me to write about it because I I thought of more things as I wrote about it. And I watched Bobby walking away. He's got on a flannel shirt. He's almost trademark flannel shirt,
Right.
blue jeans, his Timberland boots, his long hair, and he's walking off. And I'm thinking that guy's gone. That's never gonna happen again. And out he comes as the caterpillar turns into the butterfly.
Right.
Out he walks out, black boots, black leather pants, black shirt, those trademark shades, that big toothy smile, and he's just kind of waiting around, and then they lead him up the stairwell, and I took a picture of him, and I knew his life would change after that. And I was representing a group from England at the time, and they were there, and I ran out front, and we all watched the show together. And you might think he'd be a little bit nervous, right? He did. Now they start running through all Elton's tunes. He did this show, Bob, like he did it 15,000 times before. And well, he did it rehearsal, but I mean, it wasn't 15. And there's a great big screen on top, and they're isolating Bobby a lot. And I'm wondering why. Maybe it was because he was new. And I'll tell you, the tears flowed from my eyes because everything was going in real time for me. From Germain Street in Northridge or wherever that place is he lived to where he's at now. And there were tears of joy. And I remember that night, there were all kinds of parties, and Bobby said, let's go back to the hotel. So we went and got some food, and we're laying on beds, twin beds in his room, and these guys know me. I'm a little bit of a cheerleader. So Bobby says, okay, run down the set to me. So I started going over every song, and I started saying, and when you made that turn and did this, and he goes, really? Really? He just kept saying, really? Oh, yeah? All night.
So did he ever call you guys up and go, dude, guess what I'm doing?
Never.
Guess where I am?
My only story with Bobby being excited is the first time they came through Detroit. We're walking around. At that time, it didn't matter. Bobby could walk all through all the people. Nobody knew who he was. He could walk freely and out in the crowd and around. And we go backstage, and we're in this one little room that's got awesome food in it. So Bobby says to me, he says, have something to eat, Romes. So I'm eating these gigantic shrimp. And all of a sudden, Elton John walked in the room, And Bobby says, Elton, this is my cousin Michael, and nice to meet you. Small conversation. Elton left the room. So I said to Bobby, I looked over him, I said, wow, man, I can't believe I just met Elton John. And he goes, this is the only time I've ever heard Bobby be excited in his whole life. He says, I know, man, I can't believe it. He says, I'm playing these songs with my eyes closed, and I open them, and I look over, and there's the fucking guy right there playing them with me. That's the only time I ever heard Bobby be excited.
But he would never call up and go, you guys, man, I just got this gig with... It was never like that.
No, I text him one time. I says, man, Bobby, playing for the Queen.
Right.
No response. Bobby, can't believe you're with Billy Joel. No response. Maybe he didn't know he was playing with him. I don't know.
There was probably only one time that I think that I kind of sensed something about how he felt about just being in the circles he was with, and this was actually Dan and Michael were with Bobby at in Montreal when he got in his accident, and I came the day later, and he was lying in bed, and when I remember walking in there, he was so much pain. He was actually yelling out in pain. It was pretty bad. And he got this phone call, and Michelle, his wife, picked up the phone and said, Bob really can't take the call right now. He's busy. Please call back another time. So he hung up, and he goes, Michelle, he goes, who was that? And he goes, she goes, somebody named Jimmy and Robert. He goes, who? He goes, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. He goes, Michelle, he goes, write this down. We never hang up on Led Zeppelin. and that was the only time I kind of went, okay, I guess that was a big deal for him.
Yeah, it
I
would
guess
be.
you don't.
To have Led Zeppelin calling you on the phone and not taking their call.
I've got a quick selfless story. They're playing New York, Madison Square Garden. It was sometime in the fall. It was a beautiful fall day. It was gorgeous out. Bobby, I was in his hotel, and I called him from where I was staying, and I said, okay, I'll meet you. We're going to meet at the park, and we're going to throw a Frisbee, which we did, and we had a ball. And I get to the hotel in the lobby, and I'm waiting, and 10 minutes, he's 10 minutes late. Bobby was never late. I don't, I don't remember him being late a lot. He's 10 minutes late. He's 15 minutes late. He's 20 minutes. It's now going on 45 minutes. No Bobby. I'm getting a little pissed. I'm getting a little hungry. And I look over the elevator bank, and out comes Bobby. And he walks across. And I go, Bobby, come on. He said, you're not going to believe this. I was up in Elton's room. I said, oh, okay. He said, Sting was up there. And Sting wanted to know, and you guys would understand this, something about playing fretless or something with a bass or something. And Sting wanted to understand. And I guess Elton had said, I got the best player in the world. You want to talk to him. And so Bobby, for those 45 minutes, because he never was late, was giving a bass lesson to Sting. And
Nice.
of course, as soon as he said, I was pissed at him. But then when he comes down and tells me that, I said, oh my God, let's hear it. And he says, come on, man, let's go eat and then let's go throw the Frisbee. He didn't want to talk about it. And he didn't.
Amazing. And I know there's, because he was out with Elton John 20 years, and then there's all the other folks that he played with. So I know there's a ton of stories. But here's what I want to know from each one of you, because he was your boyhood friend. What do you want everybody to know about Bobby Birch? We'll start down here.
Boy, that's a hard one, but I think the thing that I remember the most about Bob, and I know he's a hometown sort of done well, and we're proud of that. When anybody from the from your hood or anybody from your boyhood does well, you want to make a big deal out of it, and we talk about him as being the legendary bass player, but all the, how do I say this? All the Facebooking, all the video montages, all the picture montages, all that stuff it really wasn't Bobby. He didn't really buy into any of that, and I don't think he really liked any of it. I just don't think that was him. He was the guy that I think, what I remember was the guy, just even like I say a month ago when he was sick, still insisted that I come out, still insisted we get 10 things done, and he treated everybody the same way, whether they were a rock star or whether they were just somebody delivering something to his house. And I think if you want to really remember Bobby, or if you want to continue his memory, or if you want to do anything that kind of keeps him, perpetuates him in your life, I say just do something really nice for somebody, and then don't go tweeting about it or putting it on Facebook or making a big deal about it. Just do something, just help a friend without asking them.
Right.
And just do it, and I think
Do the next right thing when nobody's looking.
And if you're one of those people that believe that there's something beyond this life, then you probably believe that there's. If you do believe that, then I think you probably at some point believe that whatever's going on beyond this life, they kind of know what's going on here. And I think if you do that for somebody, I think that's what he meant when he said, "Please be cool."
Okay.
I don't know. I think he just said it all. I think I mean, he's one of the warmest guys. Because I've known him forever. Next.
Right on.
You're so emotional, Michaels. Bob, we are all Bob's friends. That's the way Bob was. We're all Bob's friends. But I want to tell you guys something that's kind of been going through my head since that night or morning. I keep thinking about Danny, his brother. I think a lot about Martha. And I go way back to when I was really, really young. I would imagine 7 or 8 years old. And I remember, once again, it was a family wedding somewhere at a banquet place or a club or something. And I remember walking up to the bandstand where I was watching his brother Danny and Martha play. And I recall the power of Danny and Martha's playing. I think Bob was with you guys, and I was just a little kid, and that was like a shock upon me. I mean, I was the little kid running around and getting his pants dirty on the stage, and I remember watching Danny play the sax. And the bass was the bass, and Martha played and sang great, and Danny was and still is, probably one of the best saxophonists living today. And that shock upon me made me think about music, it made me think about the entertainment business. And although I was just a F minus player, and I enjoyed my time with the band, and what a great band and guys the career was. And from that point, I could watch Bob grow and master his craft and really become, in my opinion now, one of the legends of rock and roll that has now gone on and is playing with all the rest of the legends that have passed on. I'm really thankful for that from my cousin and his brother and his family. That was a big part of my life in the beginning.
As musicians, did you guys ever look at Bobby and go, psh, we can't touch that? I mean,
Their family was smoking players, man.
right.
Their family, they were smokers.
He always trumped us, man.
He thrived. You know, they all did, you know. He pushed us.
There's no way to keep up with him.
No. He always one step, Jim.
What about you, Mr. Risk?
The thing, here's the three things. I'm trying to, it's a good question, Bob. Here's what comes to my mind. Bobby had an incredible work ethic. If everyone in this country had the work ethic that he had, we'd have a lower jobless rate. Bobby would go play stadiums with 50, 60,000 people, and on his break in California, he'd go play the Smokehouse in Burbank. There'd be 16 people in there. 8 of them were drunk, and 4 of them, they worked there. Bobby, I said, Bobby, are you out of your mind?
He would
see you
practice
play
while he watched football.
Yeah, well, I would see him play the Smokehouse when he wasn't making a dime, and he was just living on Drummond Street, and but then he went back there after he was in Elton John's. And the other thing about Bobby is I spoke to, I can't tell you, 25, 30 people this week, industry people, all kinds of players, and everyone told me their story, and it hit me that everybody thought they had the most important relationship with Bobby Birch, and they did, because that's how Bobby made you feel. He made you feel like you were the only guy in the room. And if I could just, the one thing that the takeaway for this is, for me and for everyone out there, is that 25 or 30 years from now, when some or all of us are not here, and there's players coming up that will surely seek him out and want to emulate what he did, and that asterisk of suicide will always be there. They get to watch this. They can go to YouTube or wherever this will be, at UDetroit.com, and they can see the real story. Bob Birch would never have done anything like that, and everybody who knows him knows that's true. It would not have happened had his body and mind just totally broke down.
Hey, guys, we got a phone call. And if I'm not mistaken, we have the bass player from Blackfoot, Bob Barth. Am I correct?
Lead guitar player, thank you.
I didn't hear what he said.
Bobby?
I said, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, lead guitar player, I said, thank you. But
This is Davey? Davey? Oh, Barb.
Barth, yeah, Bobby Barth. I got a story for you that I thought might be of interest to everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you now real good.
Okay. Bob and I had been doing recordings together via Jimmy Hunter, who I know some of you guys know. Jimmy would lay down the drums. He would send the track to Bob Birch, and then Bob Birch would send it to me. I'd lay down the guitars. We've been doing this for about the last year and a half for different people. I happened to be in L.A. a couple days before Bob's death, and I was sitting outside at a friend of mine's house who had a chiropractic office in the back. And she walked into me and she said, one of my clients is here, and he says he knows you. And I said, who is that? And she said, Bob Birch. So although we had never met each other, out of all the houses in Los Angeles, we ended up at the same house. And we had, have a 5-minute talk and congratulated each other on the work we had done. And so I actually got to meet him just a couple of days before he died.
So when was the last time you saw Bobby?
I've never seen him before. We had only worked through the internet.
See, that's today's world. Because nowadays so now what? He would record a piece and mail you the MP3 and you would work on that and mail that to somebody else? And
Jimmy Hunter out in Los Angeles would lay down the drums. He was the producer of the sessions. He would lay down the drums. He would send that with a chord pattern to Bob Birch, and Bob Birch would, put his bass down and then send it to me, and I would put the guitars down. And it used to get really confusing because Bob's name was Robert Wayne Birch, and my name is Robert Wayne Barth. So we would both sign out RWB, and the producer used to get mad because he couldn't figure out who was who. But I never got to meet him during any of those years. But just to walk into a house in Los Angeles, and there he was sitting, and of course we knew who each other were because we had been together on the internet so many times. But thank God I got to meet him a couple of days before he died. But he was a wonderful bass player. I'm sure he was a wonderful man. I didn't know him that well, but he always seemed to be very kind and conscientious. But I thought that was an interesting story. To have done probably 15 songs with the guy and never have met him. And the first time I've been in Los Angeles in 15 years, I walk into a house and there he is.
Well, listen, Bob, we appreciate your phone call and your memory of Bobby, and continued success and good luck.
Thank you, brother.
Folks, that's Bob Barth with Blackfoot. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to play some music. Yeah, give everybody a break, because these stools are rough to sit on. I don't know. I'm an old man, and it's killing my hip, my butt. You know what? It has been over 20 years since we have all been in the same room together, and I'll tell you what, there's about 300 extra pounds sitting on this stage than there was 20 years ago. This is all that good food, man.
Easy, brother, easy.
Well, that was the 80s.
I'm sensitive.
Every time I look at the pictures of us back then, and you guys all had that rock star look. All had it, with the conchos and the hair and the DC Driver adrenaline, man. You guys were some of the best. It looks like we're going to take another telephone call. Who?
Hello?
Mark Rivera.
Yeah, who's this? Is Bob?
Yeah, how you doing?
Okay, and yourself?
I'm wonderful. And for those of you who don't know, he happens to be the sax player for Billy Joel. Good afternoon. We really appreciate you calling.
Oh, don't be so. I thought you guys were going to a break, and so I wanted to catch you. I don't even know where to start except to say, first of all, if you don't mind me pointing out, this most important thing for me is to reach out to Jonathan and Michelle Birch, because they're the most important part of Bob's life. And I just want to share a couple of things, a moment to say how much time we spent in our rooms after a show. Bobby used to love coming to Billy's production office because there's always be great food. And we hang out and spend so much time. I'm actually caught off guard. I thought you guys were going on a music break. I didn't think we were going to speak so soon. It's the entire crew, Billy's crew, band members, production people, everyone just absolutely adored Bob. His professionalism, his character. I wrote on a little bit. I had to detach myself from Facebook and Twitter and everything because I couldn't really get my arms around it. I believe I spoke to Jimmy Risk about that, and now that we're hearing everybody talk about his life and all the wonderful things he's done, I just want to share a couple of things. We'd finish up a gig. We'd be on stage for 3 hours. We'd put in 2 bands, and the two of us would go back to one another's rooms and watch, video of the Wrecking Crew. We'd do this and do that, and just remind ourselves of how blessed we were to have these gigs. As everyone said, I think it was his cousin Michael who said it not about himself. It was always about other people. Is that right?
Yes.
Michael, you couldn't be more correct. He's the kind of person that if you were blessed enough to have him in your life for a moment, he made you feel like the most important person in the world. And there was no distinction between Billy Joel, Elton John, the Queen of England, or the guy who just, met him at the front desk. He was a giving person. I can't even think of particular stories except to say that he's a wonderful man. He's an amazing husband, an incredible father, his best friend, or his most precious gift that anyone ever gave him was Michelle giving him Jonathan. And I said this a couple of times. I understand, Bob. We spoke about the pain he was in. He pulled me through a number of times. One night, without getting too deep into what it was, I got a little bit out of sorts in my own way, and Bob stood with me till 4 a.m, and he kept checking my pulse because my heart rate was freaked out. And he did say, I can say what I want to say. He said, I'll take you to the fucking emergency right now, dude. I'm not going to lose you. I won't lose you. And he stayed with me for hours and hours and checked in with me all the time. He just cared so much about us all. And I love him. I miss him. And I'm not at a loss for words, but I sure as heck am right now. I'll tell you one funny story, though, if I might share this, about Jonathan. He was so into his son's future. He was Jonathan is a great ball player, wonderful student, and he happened to be a really, really good bass player. And I remember asking Bob, I said, so what's Jonathan up to? He goes, hey, he's doing this. He's playing ball. He's pitching. He's smoking. He's just great. And I said, what about his bass playing? Yeah, he plays great. And Bob said, and he's studying for his medical exam. So if I catch him practice his bass, I'll break his fucking fingers. So he just wanted the best for Jonathan. And all I could say is I just want Jonathan to know how much he is still loved by everyone. That's the one I say my prayer for every day is Jonathan and Michelle. And guys, let's just lift the spirit. There's no way of knowing. I know the pain he was in, and we all talk about it, but let's just have it's a celebration. He's gone, but he's not. The last thing I said on my site was basically he's a friend who was on stage. My greatest hope on that stage was when I'd stand next to him and just see him vibing up, and he'll never leave my side. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I love you. I love you for doing this for him. And again, Billy Joel in particular loved him. And I can speak for Billy, I know that. And he just missed. So, gentlemen, keep the faith, and let's just never let Bob go.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey,
Mark
thanks,
Rivera.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
gentlemen.
Mark.
You got him. I'll speak to you soon. God bless.
See you the next time you're in Detroit. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Let's go to that break. Give everybody a chance to do whatever. And the hits just keep on coming.
Hey guys,
Hey, who are we talking to?
Jimmy Hunter calling from, well, I'm close to Hollywood. How you doing?
We're good, Jimmy. How you doing?
Well, I'm glad the Lions won, and so is Bob.
Yeah. At the
And,
last minute.
I spent. Am I on the air right now?
You are.
You sure
Okay,
are.
I spent the morning with Jonathan and Michelle, and they send their best. We watched the game together with Greg Bissonette and Mark Bonilla, the guitar player that Bob used to like to play with so much, and a bunch of other people. And we had a really great time down there.
But Jimmy,
and I scurried back as fast as I could. And
Jimmy, this is Michael. Isn't Mark like a Minnesota fan or something, though?
Well, there were a few helmets down on the floor for various teams, but we were all clapping when the Lions won, I can tell you that right now. So I've got 2 computers going here. I got 2 people in my control room, my studio, 2 people in my office, and I had to get away from the speaker so I could talk on the phone here. So we've been through a lot in the last few weeks. And there's been a lot of energy about Bob, and his spirit's been everywhere. Can everybody agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I am blown away. Jonathan and I have written a little song called "Please Be Cool." Hopefully, we're going to get Mark Nylon and Paul Ventimiglia to put some keyboards on it. I'm hoping Brian Pastorius might be nice enough to facilitate that with somebody in Detroit that might be hearing me that want to get these guys tracks laid. I could use a little help. We want to honor Bob with this song. If you don't know what "Please Be Cool" means, then you don't know Bob as well as some of us. Because if you ever call Bob Birch and you got a phone machine, that's what it said. Leave a message and please be cool. So that's what we wrote the song to honor him. And those of you that don't remember me, I am a Detroit drummer, but I've been in California since 1975. So I've been here a long time, and I helped usher Bob into town and helped him find a few gigs when we hooked up with this group called Fortune, and we were in a few bands together, and we've always looked out for each other, and he's really been a wild card for my studio, for me to be able to have clients come in and say I need a band, and I said, well, how about if I play drums and I'll get you Elton John's bass player and call in Paul Warren, have Rod Stewart's guitar player. Would that do? So it's been a great calling card for my studio, and that's something I'm going to miss a lot. But more than that, I'm going to miss a friend. And they call Jesus, they called him the Wonderful Counselor. But I'll tell you, there was a little Christ-like in Bob Birch. He was a wonderful counselor. If you ever had a problem, and you had some drama, and you needed somebody that would cut to the chase and tell you the truth, and I called on him so many times, because I get a lot of drama. When you're in the recording business in Hollywood, you got every dream seeker in the world, and they come with a lot of drama. And Bob has seen him come and seen him go with me, but what a friend he was every time I got myself in a mess and I needed somebody to talk to. And often, after I tell him a long story and go into a half an hour of the drama, and he would just cut right to the chase, and he would say something like, "Fuck that guy."
Don't sugarcoat it, brother. How do you really feel?
He didn't make it small. He just said, "You don't need the grief, man. There's more where they came from," and he was right. I hope Art Dries calls in, our junior high band director from St. Clair Shores. We went to Chippewa Junior High School, and St. Clair Shores, 10 Mile and Jefferson, and I hope he calls in because Bob and I both loved Art a lot. We used a lot of Dries-isms when we'd work in the studio together and doing licks and things. We'd go Bob, make sure you drag that triplet just right, shut, boom, and we'd know exactly how to talk to each other in a musical language. Thanks to this Art Dries, wonderful teacher that we had in common, that was something that we always turned to and always spoke about in every session. Like, what would Art do? We'd always lean on that, and. I'll tell you one story that Bob told me, and I thought it was kind of cool. You guys have been talking about how he was the consummate gigger. He'd come home from a big tour, and you'd think, he should be laying out by his pool swimming. But no, he's got to go down to Downey and play a country western bar, or he's got to hit Ventura Boulevard in some lounge somewhere, and he's got to be playing. So he's playing a gig on Ventura Boulevard, he tells me, and the band leader calls up, okay, let's do the Moon Dance, Van Morrison, a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, and then you go, boom, doom, 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 boom. Here's Bob playing the bass part from Moon Dance, and he's looking back, and the drummer's grooving, and they're swinging great, and the band leader's kind of you know how leaders can be sometimes, a little over-controlling and assuming and maybe egomaniacal. Turns back to the drummer and looks at him right in the eye with a hate look, Bob's telling me. He says, hey, man, that's not the way the drum part goes. And the drummer's like, can't believe it. He just keeps on swinging just the way he's swinging. And he says, hey, man, that's not the groove, man. And the band stops, and I go, hey, man, that's not the groove. And the drummer, his name was Gary. Gary Malaber was his name. He says, man, I played on the record. So I thought that was just a great story that Bob, he's playing Moon Dance, Van Morrison's drummer in a club on Ventura, and the leader's telling him how to play the drums. So as a drummer, I don't think it's one of those you had to be there. I think you guys get it. It's pretty cool. So that's one I would never forget that he told me that I just thought was like, so probably just for me, a story just for me as a drummer. So what's happening, guys?
Hey, listen, Jimmy, we appreciate the phone call. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Hunter.
Hey, thanks, Jimmy.
All right,
Detroit.
man. Love you guys out in Detroit. Remember, Bob always told you that he loved you. Tell somebody else you love them today, and be cool.
And please
Thanks,
be cool.
Jimmy.
Be cool.
That's right.
I guess that's the word of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That and go Lions. All right, brother. Thanks for the call.
Adios.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We are going to take that pause.
Okay, just before we break, I want to say to all the people who are calling in, after this break, you might want to up your phone calls because we're moving a little faster than I thought. So you know who you are.
In code, he's telling. All right, folks. This is the tribute to Bobby Birch by his friends and the people who knew him best. And the way I understand it, he was a huge fan of Chicago, so we're going to play some Chicago right now on the UDetroit Radio Network, UDetroit.com.
I'm with you. It doesn't matter where we are or what we're doing. I'm with you, that's all that matters. Time passes much too quickly when we're together laughing. I wish I could sing it to you. Oh no, I wish I could sing it to you. Oh, 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 oh. Mostly I'm silent. Silent, la 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 la. Never think of the right words to say when I kiss you. I feel 1,000 different feelings, color of chills all over my body. And when I feel them, I quickly try silent, silent. La 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 la. Silent. Only the beginning, what I want to feel forever. Yeah. Oh, oh. Yes, only the beginning, what I want to feel forever. Only the beginning. Oh, that's just a start. Yeah, I got to get you in my life, mama. Got to get you next to me. Yeah, all in the beginning. Oh, that's just a start. Hey, 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 hey. Mhm. waiting for the break of day, searching for something to say, flashing lights against the sky, giving up, I close my eyes, sitting cross-legged on the floor.
And we're back. And we're live here at the UDetroit Cafe on the UDetroit Radio Network, UDetroit.com. We're celebrating... I'm sorry, say it again. Trudell from New York. Trudell, how are you, sir? Welcome.
I'm good. How are you?
We wish we were meeting under different circumstances.
Yeah, me too.
But, Steve, you're a longtime friend of Bobby's, right?
Oh, yeah. Probably, oh, man, it must be 20-something years, you know. And long time, yeah.
So what bands did you play with Bobby in, or did you guys just do studio work together, or what was your experience with?
Yeah, I don't play. I wrote lyrics. I worked as a lyricist. I'm a songwriting partner of Davy Johnstone and the Elton John band guy. So originally we did a record called War Pipes, and that's how
Right.
I met Bobby actually. I guess it would maybe think we met at home, and both being from Michigan and very close by each other. But we met in California through Davy Johnstone actually. And our fathers actually played together as well, so in Michigan too.
So his dad is the one. His dad played an upright bass and is the one who taught him how to play, right?
I think so. You know, I also know that Ray Tini was an influence on him. Ray Tini is a bass player still playing with my father's orchestra, you know, and I know Ray was a big influence on him because every time I saw Bobby, he would say, you got to say hello and send his love to Ray, you know, and I always did that, you know, so.
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get everybody who knew Bobby, because of the, you know, when he died, you know, you read on, you know, and it's on Facebook and it's on Twitter and it's on E and it's here and it's there. And a lot of the guys here in Detroit felt that the true story of Bobby wasn't getting out. And so we wanted to know, what do you want? And believe me, from working with all these guys before this program, everybody's really hurt that Bobby's gone. And what we want to know, is, what do you want people to know about Bobby Birch?
That he, you know, well, number one, setting the music aside first, the number one thing was that he loved his wife and he loved his son so much. I know how much he loved Michelle. You know, I stayed in their home and spent time with them, and that's number one. And his friends and music, you know, how much time he put into everything, and how articulate he was about his playmanship and all the recordings we did, or we would write a song, Davey, he and I, and, you know, just how good it would turn out on their end, you know. I can't speak for my end, but I tell you, those guys could put it together, you know, melody and music. And he cared about life, he cared about his family, he cared about everything he did. That's what I know about Bobby. That's what I can tell you, you know.
Okay. Give me a favorite story.
Oh, gosh.
Over 20 years, there had to have been a lot.
I don't know. I just think about the times when he and Davey and I would, you know, I traveled with them so much. I sat in so many dressing rooms and would go to dinner and lunch, and, you know, we all just hung out all the time, you know. I don't really know. You know, gosh, a favorite story. Oh, man. I don't know. I think the last time I saw Bob, though, was you know, we went out to lunch and we walked the streets of New York, you know, and we spent most of the day together, which was really great, you know. We didn't do that often, where we'd spend a lot of time together that way. So that was really special. So to be able to spend time with him, but I just remember Bob. I'll always remember him being just a dear friend of mine, and you know, it's just and his sarcasm. He was so Michigan. I can't tell you. Everywhere we could go, you just knew that he and I would get together, and it was sarcastic, you know. So
Hey,
it
Steve.
was great that way.
Steve, I know that your father is Johnny Trudell is one of the true legends in this town. I mean, you know, your father played on every Motown side I think that was ever cut. So you grew up in a tremendous musical environment. How did Bobby stack up to all those greats that you saw grow up?
He was one of them. He could have played at Motown, you know. When I hear Ray Tini play, I hear Bob Birch, you know, that Fender bass. So I know where that influence came from when I would hear Bob play. I would hear it in Elton's music even, you know. It's very distinct to me, you know. But he was one of the cats, as you know, as my dad always says, that, you know, if you don't have the grease, you don't have it, you know. And that's my father, you know. He always said you got to have the grease, and he's got it. And Bob Birch has the grease, that's for sure. And I don't know whether that comes from Detroit or whatever. So.
Well, listen, Steve, we really appreciate you calling in, and our best to you. And we're sorry for your loss, as we are everybody else's. Take care, and thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks,
Yeah,
Steven.
my best to all guys there, okay?
All right,
Thanks,
man.
Steve.
All right. Okay, bye-bye now.
That was Steve Trudell. Wait, did you guys all hear that? Yes. Okay, because for a moment there, I thought it was the brown acid coming back again. I should have listened when they said, "Don't do that, man." All right. It's a surprise to me, but who do we have on the phone right now?
This is George Conert from Philadelphia.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you feeling?
Well, you know, we're trying to have a good time here today, and everybody seems to be living in the memory of Bob Birch. He's missed. His friends came here to tell his story because they don't believe that the press, the music press, the regular press, the media, all they did was say, you know, okay, here's Bob Birch, played for Elton John, committed suicide, now he's dead. And there's a lot more to a person's life than that, and that's why everybody's here. And we wanted to know, first of all, tell everybody what your association with Bobby was.
Well, Bobby, he was just a kind, beautiful soul that I met through my dear brother Jimmy Risk. Bobby was, of course, I'm a born and raised Detroiter, so we had that closeness. But the story I want to convey tonight is that at a time when I was struggling and I was just starting off and trying to get my new sportswear line developed out in California, and Jimmy Risk said, why don't you give Bobby Birch a call, because he's out in California, and maybe he can help you out and put you up. So I called Bobby, and he said, hey man, no problem. He said, if you need a place to stay, he says, come out to my place. It's not very big. He said, but you can have the floor, the couch, whatever you need. He said, to break your act, which was my sportswear line that I had created. So I went out and I stayed with Bobby for a week out on the West Coast. He put me up. He fed me. He was such a gentle man. And again, I didn't know Bobby that well from Detroit. I met him through Jimmy Risk, and he was such a beautiful soul. He let me stay at his place. He fed me, and he didn't have anything either. He was struggling, just trying to make it out there. And from that effort, I went on to create a big movement in sportswear here. And it all started with that first stay in California on Bobby's couch. And if it wasn't for him and being so generous and giving me that opportunity, I don't know if where I would have been that day. So I just wanted to call in and say my piece about this beautiful person. And I came to know Bobby further after that through different times, coming through Pennsylvania. When I left Detroit and moved out here, he came and did some shows with Alton and invited me to be there. In fact, one time he did a show at the old Veterans Stadium, and I'm in his hotel suite, and I said, "Do you have any tickets?" And he said, "Don't worry about a thing. I told Alton you were my brother and you got his seats." so, you know, he was always so generous and so beautiful and so simple about it, you know. And so it was a real kick in the heart when I heard the news. But, you know, when it's all said and done, I know the banquet was ready for him upstairs. And he was tired. And so, you know, he's resting now. And he's probably up there at the big dance playing a gig, waiting for all of us someday.
He's up there with Jimmy and John and everybody, and they're all doing the big gig in the sky.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, and he's at rest now. So God rest his soul, and that's beautiful. So anyway, I just wanted to call in and tell you that I love the guy. He was so beautiful, and I'm thankful that in this lifetime I had an opportunity to meet the man, and I considered him a brother. And so I hope that his family, all of his family, just rest in that knowledge that he was just one of a kind. Anyways, thanks for the opportunity to call in for Bobby.
Listen, we
Thanks,
appreciate
Jack.
it. We appreciate it, Jack. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.
You know, I'm looking here, and you got a last name? All right, well, let's go to the next caller and bring Scott on. Scott, how are you? Scott.
Hey, I'm right here.
All right, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from down near Hollywood right now. I was just checking out the webcast, but just wanted to talk a little bit about Bob. And I was fortunate enough to meet him in the late 80s, probably 88 or 89, not too much longer after he had come out from Detroit. And remember seeing him playing a few local gigs, and he actually was playing some stand-up bass before I ever really got to perform with him. He was at a wedding that I saw out in the West Valley. But anyways, I ended up playing basically with him in an acoustic trio, typically with a good buddy of mine named Jay Bolin. And Bob used to like playing with us when he was off tour, but of course before '92 he hadn't gotten the tour. But we were playing all over the place in the valley and very popular and specialized in three-part harmonies. And Bob really helped out and was, great at arranging everything. And we played anywhere from out at the Sagebrush like every weekend, or else we'd be down in Moon Shadows. And if we weren't doing an acoustic trio, we were doing stuff with various guitarists, either Rocket Rashad or Danny Jacob. And basically, yeah, just a lot of restaurant gigs and enjoyed a lot of dinners with him. And he helped me out when I had personal problems. I went to him for some recovery issues, and he steered me in the right direction. And he was overall just an incredible man and best friend. And my condolences to Michelle and Jonathan. I feel very bad, but anyways, I just was really blessed to be with him, and I was probably the guy that came up with when he left town for the first time in '92. Here's what I said: "Goodbye, Yellow Brick Bob." So that's about what I got. I really missed the guy. Rest in peace, Bob.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Is there another call?
There's two more.
Oh, they're on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
Who do we have on the phone, please?
This is Joel Walkford from Los Angeles.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing really, really good. I'm glad to see this.
It's we appreciate you calling, And you did a bunch of deals with Bobby, a lot of gigs with a lot of different people, or you had a band?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I met Bob shortly after he moved to L.A. I was putting together a band with him, my buddy Michael Sokolis, and, we were going to do a bunch of Motown stuff. And there was a thing out here in L.A. called the Musicians Contact Service where you could find musicians. So we went down there and looked for a bass player, and here was a guy from Detroit. It seemed like we got to try a guy from Detroit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I can't remember if Bobby auditioned or just walked in and we just went, this is the guy, he had the hair, he had the attitude, and we played in that little band for a while, and we had a couple of drummers, and he said, let's wait till my buddy Greg Bissonette comes out from North Texas. And so I got to play with I think the greatest rhythm section in the world, and Hungry Hunter scene out here for a little while before Greg went off with Maynard. But Bob and I became fast friends, and I was a songwriter and producer, still am, and all those years, Bob was the only guy I called to play bass. I mean, I can't think how many sessions we did. We did so much together.
What's your favorite memory of Bob?
Oh, God, favorite memory? Oh, man. Well, I got a couple that I got to share. So we were working for a friend of ours, Richard Levinson, who was contracting all this music for Jazzercise. And we would do a lot of recording for him, and we also would do these, we get flown all over the country to go play for Jazzercise. So we're in Chicago, and we're in, I forget the name of the big convention center downtown, and we're playing in front of, I think, about 2,700 people. 100 of them were men, and the rest of them were women, all in leotards, all doing splits and stretches right in front of us.
You can't beat that, man.
Yeah, and I'm standing next to Bobby, and he leans over to me with this look in his face, and he's the funniest human being I've ever known. And I thought he was just going to say something nasty, like Bob could say, and he just goes, "How about those Bears?" It was just a great, great moment, man. It was so great. He had me on the floor. And there's some other great stories from that one, too. Hopefully the guys that were on that will call in. And I also want to say, I worked with, I met Paul Ventimiglia through Bob, and I'm glad to see Paul there. I love Paul. And we did a singer showcase thing together for years. Paul was the music director. Bob, I played guitar, and a guy, Mark Bency, who I'm hoping will call in, was the drummer. It was a laugh fest. We never stopped laughing. It was just great. And I just talked to a guy recently who last saw Bob 27 years ago. And he saw the obituary online and saw the address book and that I had written in. And he is a storyteller now, and he sent a link to a story that he did here in L.A. About Bob. Basically, he said the same thing 27 years later. Got Steve Robinson, Paul, you remember him, that Bob made him feel like he was the shit. That he was the funniest guy on the planet. And it touched his life so deeply. I just don't even know where to begin. I mean, I was one of those thousand guys that Jimmy talks about, Jimmy Risk, that felt like Bob was one of his closest friends. I'm just, it's not surprising to me that there were another 1,000 guys that felt that same way.
Joel, we appreciate the phone call, sir.
You got it. Hey, I got one more for you.
All right.
Before Bob made it big, he used to play with everybody. Everybody. So one day Bob said to me, I'm in so many airports, people ask me who I play with. I tell them I play with The Who. And I said, The Who? And he said, yeah, because when I tell them who I'm playing with, they go, The Who? Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you, Jimmy, for putting this together, and a shout out to Paul Ventimiglia, who's one of the great guys in the world.
Thank you, Joel. We appreciate it, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Wash calling in from Los Angeles. Most of our calls have been, hold on. I've got sitting next to me, I've got Bobby's brother, Danny Birch, and I appreciate you coming in and taking on. It was growing moss all over you.
It's getting old over here. I don't have much time left. You got to kind of move along a little bit.
All right. Well, it's good to have you here. I noticed the one thing I notice about what everybody's saying about your brother Bobby is that he helped everybody. Everybody who's called in said, well, he helped me through this.
Bob was fantastic. But I have to tell you something. I knew Bob when he wasn't very good.
Well, of course you did. You got to have some really good.
I got a lot of stories, but I think a lot of stuff has been covered by everyone who's been up here already.
What do you want people to remember about Bobby?
That he was my brother.
And you loved him.
Well, of course.
So did you guys jam together when you were younger? I know you played.
When we were younger, July, I think 56, my parents brought home a nose breather, a mouth breather that was going to live with me for the next 15 years in my room. Okay? And I stayed up. I learned to stay up late because I could never get to sleep.
Right.
He had their problem fixed later when he was older, but when he was sleeping with me, it was a lot of open. I used to pour water in his mouth at night to get him to stop. And he'd wake up and he'd go, oh, I said, you're having a bad dream, Bob.
That was mean, but funny.
It was funny for me.
So what was the house like that you guys grew up in together? Very musical.
Musical, my father was a bass player.
Right.
When you had a party, your parents would have a party. They would drink, to get drunk, make a lot of comments, yada, yada, and go home. When my parents would have a party, same thing, only there'd be a jam session going until like 5 or 6 in the morning.
So you guys grew up playing your whole life?
Actually, we didn't like music at first.
Really?
I got hooked into the band at Lakeview High School because my mother wanted me to meet people and not be so weird. So I got into the band. I had a good time, and I guess it caught on to Bob because later on I started giving him sax lessons.
Okay.
Okay, and he played in the band all through the whole thing.
On sax?
On sax. No, he played bassoon actually in high school.
Okay.
Studied with Ted Lindsay. No, not, he's the hockey player. Lindsay, the bassoon player at the symphony at the time.
Okay.
It was very good. He followed me into Wayne State. And
Okay.
it was kind of fun for him because they would go, I don't know, you don't seem like Dan. You're really nice. What's the matter with you? So he got the opposite of what, the other kids would have got.
Right.
But later on, in about 73 or so, he joined my band. He wanted to play bass, so we looked around to try to find a bass for him. We found this Fender Jasmine or something like that. It didn't work, and I had to take it apart and fix it for him, and then we kind of rigged an amp for him to practice with at first. My father was an acoustic player. There wasn't an amp in the house.
You played an upright bass, right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
And we got him going, and I got him his first bar gig. A group called Terry and the Topics called me up. I don't know if you remember them, but they were over in Dearborn. They played at the Dearborn Townhouse or something. And it was a nice club upstairs, a strip bar downstairs, and yeah.
So that was his first gig?
Yes, that was his first gig. So he would go downstairs on the breaks and watch the chicks and go upstairs and play with Terry. And then after about 3 years, he wanted to play bass, so I decided to get him in the band. We were doing a trio, and my wife Martha was playing a Hammond and kicking pedals.
Okay.
That means playing bass with her foot.
Right.
Okay, so Bob played sax and bass, so we started out by switching. We'd play some average weight band with 2 horns, and then we'd play Close to You.
Okay.
With him playing bass. Or some other crap like that. I'm not a Close to You fan.
No.
Well, you play what you make money.
Play what you right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I put up with a lot of shit from a lot of the other leaders in the L'Oreal Ross little enclave. They thought that I wasn't doing the right thing, he wasn't very good. But in about 6 months, he was better than most of them.
Yeah.
And we played together for just under 10 years.
That's pretty good when brothers get to do that.
What? We got along. I get along with my brother. And by the way, I want to point out that I also have a sister, Lisa Murray, who happens to be an excellent vocalist. If you read any of the byline crap, you never hear about her, but she's another strong musical member of our family.
So now, would you guys get together as a family?
Absolutely.
And jam?
We played all the time. We played a couple gigs where Martha, me, Bob, my father, and my sister played.
That had to be a lot of fun.
We used to play with Lisa a lot. No, it wasn't that much fun. But it was a good experience.
It's a great memory, though.
Musically, there were little things happening, but it was a good experience, yes. Had a great time, absolutely great time. Did a lot of not so things you might not want to talk about.
Right.
Had a lot of fun. Did some really weird shit.
So, what were some of the first songs he learned how to play in that first band? What were the tracks?
Man, I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. What the fuck?
Right, I understand.
You're asking me whatever was popular in '73. We were playing cover tunes.
Right.
So you pick it, and I can't remember that crap because I wasn't really happy playing cover tunes. I'm a jazzer by heart, and I played what I had to play to make money.
Right.
So we played jazz, we played rock, we played a couple of folk tunes, we played country, we played disco. We were having a real hard time finding a gig just around the time our thing got worn out, you know.
Right.
So him and I learned the one side of the Bee Gees.
Sure.
Man,
Saturday Night Fever.
Knocking them out the door.
Everybody wanted to hire you.
Gagging the whole time.
So you're a jazz musician then?
Yes.
And you're playing gigs around Detroit still?
A little bit.
What is the one thing you're going to miss most about Bobby?
I could call Bob or email Bob and say, I cut my toe off. Nothing. Just like what's his name was saying. I could email Bob and say, oh, the house fell down on me. Nothing. I'd say, I'm having a little problem with my windows. He'd call me from wherever he was in the whole fucking world and help me walk me through the problem. So I'm going to miss his computer expertise the most. And I talk to him all the time. You know, up until you told me that Paul was his best friend, I thought I was, you know.
A lot of sibling rivalry going on there?
Never. Not with my brother or my sister. We didn't do that. We worked together. If one was hurting the other one, until he moved out to L.A., then we weren't in too much contact.
How'd you feel about that when he packed up and went to L.A.?
I was pissed at first because I had to get a bass player.
Right.
Okay, but I was happy when he started doing the things that he was doing. Called me up one time, and he takes the phone and he sticks it out. He's listen to this. Takes the phone, sticks it out the window, and you hear, pow. He was playing with Jose in Guatemala, and they were having a little problem.
Wow.
He used to say that he would go with Jose, and they'd go through customs. And pardon me, but Jose would have a bag of cocaine in one boot and a bag of weed in the other boot, and they'd walk through, and then they'd be sticking a flashlight up my brother's ass.
But they wouldn't
But they
say
wouldn't
anything.
touch Jose.
Right. He was Jose Feliciano.
Hey, Jose
after
was
all.
great, man. He played with some really great cats. I was very happy for him and really proud of him.
So we run down. He played with Elton John, played with Billy Joel. Started out, wasn't his first big gig, though,
His first
was Jose.
big gig was, if you don't include the Fortune thing and that stuff, where he was playing with real cats.
Right.
His first big thing was with Jose when he started touring with him. And he started bringing in some money.
Okay.
In fact, he just did a thing with Jose not too long ago. At the beginning of the summer, that was up for the Latin.
Whatever the Latin Grammy Award is.
Grammy Award, right.
So what other bands did he play with?
Pardon me?
What other bands did he play with that we haven't touched on?
In Detroit,
yet?
he played with me. Okay.
Exclusively.
Except for Terry and the Topics. After that, he played with just about everybody that's on the list that you have right there.
And a great studio musician.
A number one call in L.A. That means that if they're going to call a bass player, he's the first one they try to call.
When was the last time you talked to Bob?
The Sunday before he died. I talk to him all the time. I actually talked to his wife, Michelle, a lot. She used to call me, especially when Bob was on the road, once or twice a week. And, you know, I love her and my nephew, Jonathan, too. But
Did he tell you how much pain he was in?
yeah, we talked about it all the time. I tried to score Vicodin to shoot it to him. Ha, ha, ha. Yes, I did.
So his pain was through his back and his lower.
Pain, I wasn't privy to the autopsy, so I don't know. But from what I heard, he had a lot of pain, scar tissue on his nerve damage all the way up to his neck and into up to his head.
What was the last thing you said to your brother?
We were joking because they sent him home from the hospital that day with. They said it was pancreatitis and to drink a lot of clear liquids. So naturally, being a firm believer in doctors and how wonderful they are to us, I was dissing the shit out of the doctors. And so is he, because they were full of shit.
He went to the doctors a lot.
When I went there the next day after he died. There were appointments, like 13 or 14 appointment cards on his desk. And his stack of the results and stuff was like a book. Okay? And my cousin, who is a renowned otolaryngologist physician, teaching physician at UCLA, Dennis Masseri, went through the whole thing and he couldn't see from all the results that there was anything wrong with him.
But he was
because nothing, all the things came back positive. Of course he was in a lot of pain. But you can't measure pain.
Right.
There's nothing that says where,
right.
You know, I mean,
where
that's like
on a
here.
Chart. Right.
Okay, so he went through acupuncture people. He had massages all the time. He was going to see this weird-ass German doctor that injects with people with sheep's shit or something. I don't know. Calf's blood. Sorry, that's my wife, Martha. She corrects me.
Well, listen.
Yeah. See, I talk, and then she tells me what I mean. She'll come in the room and say, well, what do you think of this? And I'll say, I like it. Shit, that's a piece of shit. Why did you like, well, why are you asking me in the first place? But that's...
My favorite move that the wives make is they pull the container out of the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And they smell it. And they
right.
go, oh, my God,
yeah,
this is terrible. Here, smell this. The
yeah,
hell do I want to do that for?
That's her. That's her. Many times I've wished that she couldn't talk. But she's the singer, so I can't wish that.
No.
I always would say, Jesus, women would be so beautiful if they couldn't say nothing. It's what it ruins the image as soon as they open their mouths, you know?
Well, listen, Danny, I appreciate you coming up here
sure.
and talking about Bobby. It was a pleasure to have met you, and we wish you all the best, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Folks, Danny Birch. We got.
Okay.
All right, let's take
Brian.
the call. I am going to. Do we have the call, Paul? Is this Greg Bissonette?
Yes, it is.
How you doing, Greg?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to have you on the program here. I'm sitting here with Jimmy Risk, and Brian Pastore just walked up and sat down.
Oh, my gosh. Say hi to Brian and Jimmy both for me.
They're right. They're sitting right here, brother. You can talk to them live right now.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Hi, Greg. It's Brian here. How are you, man?
Brian Pastoria, how are you, brother? Man, oh, man.
I'm doing so much better now that I'm talking to you, Greg.
Oh,
I miss you, man.
Buddy, I miss you too. It was so good to hear Danny Birch just now talking on the phone. Boy, I'm listening to the podcast or whatever you call it in the other room, and when Danny got on, I got pretty choked up.
Yeah, I met you through the Romeos and Bobby, and you've been such a big inspiration. We're so proud of you here in Detroit. And I now live in Warren, with
you
my
live in Warren, that's right, you used to live.
with my beautiful family, and we talk about you a lot, and you're a big inspiration, bro, and you're a hell of a guy.
Oh, Brian, you right back at you, man. Bob took me to see you guys the first time with Adrenaline DC Drive, and I had my jaw on the ground just going, holy cow, these guys are amazing, and you're just all the greatest guys. You and the Romeos and everybody, man. What a great band, and what a great band of guys. And I'll never forget Bob introducing me to you guys, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I remember going out to see Bobby in L.A. and when you were in L.A. and those were some incredible times together. And I know how close you were with Bob. And you guys were like brothers from different mothers, I'll tell you.
You're right, Brian. You bet. We both kind of moved there around the same time and really, really bonded, man, because we didn't know anybody. You know, we were just two Detroit guys trying to make a go of it in L.A., you know, and he had that little apartment down on Beloit Street off Santa Monica Boulevard down there by the 405, and I was up in Granada Hills, you know, and we just we would do that drive like every day and just hang out together. We'd always go to the Flying Jib, this great club down in Encino, and hear two of our heroes, Neil Steubenhouse on bass and Vinny Colaiuta on drums, and we just lived for that time, you know?
Yeah.
Brian, am I on the air now?
You're on the air live right now.
Oh, buddy, wow. Okay, well, man, this is all the good stuff we're talking about, so I'm glad we're talking in this way. I wondered, you know, I kind of made some notes. Jimmy Risk had said, you know, go ahead and make some notes of things you want to say about Bob, and I had said a lot of these things at his memorial out here in L.A., but I wondered if it would be okay to reiterate it online.
Absolutely.
Oh, great, Brian. Well, the first thing I said is it's so hard to talk for just a few minutes about such an amazing man and friend. But my first impression of Bob, and it was a great and long-lasting impression, everlasting impression, was back in Detroit in '74. And we were both in high school. I was in school in Warren, Michigan there at Mott High School on 12 in winter. And I went over to the east side of Detroit to see our hero, right, Brian, Buddy Rich, you know. It's like, wow, I'm going to go see the Buddy Rich band playing. And it was on Bob's side of Detroit, St. Clair Shores. And the opening act for Buddy Rich's band was Bob's amazing high school big band, the Lakeview High School Jazz Ensemble. And I remember, Brian, sitting in the front row, and my jaw just hit the floor when I saw Bob, because he had his electric bass on, and he was leading the rhythm section with this incredible swinging, walking bass line thing, and I couldn't help but notice on his an alto sax on a strap around his neck. And it's time for the sax solo, and I think it must have been like a secondary bass player or something that picked up the walking bass part, because Robert W. Birch starts ripping a burning alto sax bebop solo, and all I could think of was, wow! I got to find a way to hang with this guy. I didn't know Bob yet. Little did I know that day I was about to find out that he was every bit as great of a man as he was a musician. And Bob's degree from Wayne State, like Danny just said, to Wayne State, his degree was a music education degree that enabled him to teach public school. His specialty was instrumental music or school band, so he could have something to fall back on, we'd all say. But as we all know, Bobby didn't need something to fall back on. He was a player's player. But Bob, part of getting your education degree was that you had the student teach in a high school for 6 months. And my brother Matt, who's a few years younger than me, he was playing bass in our high school big band in Warren, and he was 15 and Bob was 21. And wouldn't you know it, Brian, Matt's high school band director, student teacher, was none other than the man we're honoring today, Bob Birch. And Bob told Matt, you got to come out and hear our band, Birch and Company, with my brother Danny Birch and his wife, Tha. And he said, Tha? He said, yeah, Martha, Tha. Oh, cool, that sounds great, man. Well, here's the problem. It's 21 and over, and I'm only 15, Matt said. And right then, Bobby reached into his wallet and gave Matt his expired Michigan driver's license and said, hey, we lived a lot alike, Matt. When you show them your fake ID at the front door, just kind of put your thumb over my beard. And it worked like a charm for 6 years. And Bob was one of our musical heroes. He was like our older brother in a lot of ways. He had this way of calling his friends, and you know, Brian, he called us all Lou, and before you knew it, we were all calling each other Lou. Paul Ben Amelia, you, Michael and Jimmy Romeo, Jimmy Hunter, Martin Island, so many of us that knew Bob and were his pals, and we were all Lou to him, and he was Lou to us. To this day, whenever I see or talk to Jonathan or Michelle, Jonathan's always Lou and Michelle will always be Louise. Michelle Braverman back in those days was the first new friend I made when I moved to LA in '82. We were roommates for years in her home that later became the Birch home with Michelle, Bob, and Jonathan on Germain Street in Granada Hills. 6 months after I moved there, I got a gig to go out on the road with Maynard's band, and I asked Michelle if my friend Bob Birch could sublet my room, and Michelle's eyes lit up, and she said, "Oh, I like your friend Bobby. He's really cute. Of course he can stay in your room." And they fell deeply in love, and years later in that home came the apple of their eye, the wonderful Jonathan Hunter Birch. And we were together this morning watching our Bob Birch-inspired Lions win today, and we were all over at Michelle and Jonathan's home there, the Birch family home, and we just, several people that I was close to out here, Jimmy Hunter was there, Mark Bonilla was there, and Michael Mason. I had the kids, Noah and Mary, with me, and there was just a bunch of friends that were all sitting around, and we all had the Lions on, because that's what Bob would do. He was such a Lions freak, and he always had the sports package, and we could go over there and watch the games, and just so many memories, Brian, so many memories. I remember him, when I first moved to LA, he said, "Hey, my sister Lisa Birch, Lisa Murray, has a gig in Vegas. Let's go play a gig with my sister." So we went to Vegas and played this fun gig with Lisa there. And I remember him, because Joel Walker was just on the air. Willie and the Weasels with Michael Sikolis. And I remember saying to Bob, "You're in a band called Willie and the Weasels?" "Yeah, we got a gig in Santa Barbara tomorrow. Come on." And he was always gigging, Brian. Did you know he always, didn't matter what kind of gig, what kind of band, he knew all the songs. I remember the last gig we played together was for the Mike and Brian radio show out here in LA at the Nokia Theater, and whether it was playing upright bass with Sammy Hagar on a Christmas tune like "Santa's Going South for Christmas," or playing with Kevin Cronin's band, or Edgar Winter Frankenstein. I remember Steve Lukather was the guitarist. Everybody just loved Bob so much. He was the guy that turned me on to Toto when I moved to LA. And wouldn't you know it, Lukather and all the guys, David Page and Toto, called right before his Los Angeles memorial when they heard about his passing. And they dedicated the show in Dusseldorf, Germany to Bobby. So I just remember he'd always have it on his phone machine, "Please leave a message and please be cool." So, man, in the name of Bob Birch, Bobby, we love you, and we're always trying to be cool because of you, I'm so glad he introduced me to you, man.
That's very well said, Greg.
Oh, man. I think what you guys are doing back in Detroit is so wonderful. And just, I'm sure people all over the world are getting to do exactly what you want, people to learn about Bob, the person, and the man, and hearing his brother Danny up there talking. And, it's just so great to be able to do what you're doing. And I want to thank you for putting all this together in Bob's name,
Well, thank you, Greg. Thank you very much. And, when we first heard the news and, Jimmy called me about this, we're inspired over the years by a lot of the big name musicians and the big name artists. But really, it's guys like Bob Birch and yourself, Greg. You're right there too, man. You're an incredible talent, but even more than that, you're an incredible guy. And
thank you, buddy.
Yeah, and that's how Bob was, man.
You better believe it, man. Anytime you needed anything, he was always right there. I remember I had a thing going on, some acid reflux, and I was in England, and we were doing the Ringo tour, he was doing the Elton tour. We both had a day off on the same day, and he said, "Come on over, Lou." So I went to the Royal Garden Hotel where he was staying on the other side of London, and I told him what was going on. He goes, "We got to call Dr. Lou Jr." So we called Jonathan, his son, and he immediately told us to go over to Whole Foods and get this special DGL licorice thing, and it worked. I mean, the Birches are just always, just such down-to-earth people that are always there and help you. And I know my dad was pretty close with Chet. My dad was a drummer in Detroit, and Chet was a bass player in Detroit, and they kind of knew each other in Detroit, but they really got to know each other here because of Bobby. He's like, "Come on, man," and because of the Lions, And I'm glad that the Lions actually, towards the end, they got the super glue on their hands and were holding on to the ball. I could hear Bobby yelling, "Hold on to the ball! Never did threw it to you! Come on!"
Exactly. You knew him, bro. Yep.
Hey, Greg, I just want to say one thing. Bobby loved, as you know, he loved everybody, but I can tell you firsthand, he adored you. I remember sitting in his house when you got the David Lee Roth gig, and I'm telling you, he couldn't talk enough about you. I didn't know who you were. I heard your name, but I didn't know you, and you know, it was unbelievable, man. It really was. He held you in such high esteem.
That means the world to me. I was talking with Michelle and Jonathan today because Bob and Michelle brought Jonathan in their arms to the first video we did. It was Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan, and it was David Lee Roth thing. And Bob goes, "Come on, we're going to go see the video." And we were filming out in Riverside the concert footage for Yankee Rose. And as soon as they got in the room, we hit the first note, you know, wow, and Jonathan just jumped out of Michelle's arms, and she's like, we got to get out of here. It was so loud. And they came back in with these cool earmuff protector phones, and Jonathan sat there, probably 2 years old, you know, watching the whole video shoot. And yeah, Bob was such a music fan. You know, he really got Danny Seraphin, the drummer that was the original drummer with Chicago. He got Danny so excited about playing again because Danny was the original drummer, but then he left years later. But Bob and I both loved Chicago so much, and Bob knew every single Peter Cetera bass part, and Mark Bonilla, a friend out here, knew every Terry Katz solo. And the guy that owns DW Drums, Don Lombardi, called and said, "Hey, Danny's been asked to do a clinic in Chicago, and he's kind of freaking out because he's never done a drum clinic. What should he do?" And we all said, "He should play Chicago songs." And Don said, "Well, what if he came over and you guys played some double drums?" So Danny came over, and we opened up, you know, with this thing where Bob's standing there, and Mark's standing there, and they got their guitars. He goes, "Who's these guys? What are they doing?" I said, "Well, this is Bob Birch from Detroit on bass, and Mark Bonilla on guitar." And they started getting into that ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, State of the Union song from Chicago 5. And Danny goes, "Wow, you know State of the Union?" And Bob goes, "Come on!" And Bob sat him down on the drums, and we played Chicago songs for 4 hours. And because of that, Danny got full on into playing again and started California Transit Authority. And that's the kind of music fan Bob was, and a guy that gave back.
Yeah.
He wanted Danny Seraphin out there doing it again. And Mark Bonilla became the musical director of the California Transit Authority. So that's Bob in a nutshell, right, Brian? I mean, he just loved music, man.
Absolutely, man. Bobby's the one who turned me on to Chicago and Danny Seraphin. You know, when I was listening to the Rolling Stones, and you know, I was into Charlie Watts and Ringo, and Bobby had said to me, when I was at the Romeo's house when we were kids, you know, he said, "Brian, you want to play drums? Listen to this guy." And I tell you what, I grabbed that record, that second record, Ballet for a Girl in Buchanan, man. I learned every single note, every groove on that record, because Bobby said, "If you want to be a real drummer, bro, listen to this guy." And he was right on.
Oh, Brian, I hope Danny's listening, because Danny was a very close friend of Bob's and became very close, and he was at the memorial, and I hope he's listening, because Danny, if you're listening, Brian Pastoria is an incredible drummer and an incredible guy, and Bob Birch turned him on to you to be a more incredible drummer. That's a great story, Brian.
Yeah, he was, Bobby was, I think, you know, he was a year older than me, and so when you're a kid, year is a big difference, but he was more into the progressive music, into the jazz, and I think that's one of the things that made him such an incredible bass player. You know, when you look in a lot of the great rock bands, you know, like John Paul Jones, Bill Wyman, these guys, you know, they weren't just listening to 1-4-5 chords, you know, they were bringing a whole different thing to the band. And
like Entwistle, just chops and all this other, you know, on a different level kind of bass playing thing. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And he was into Blood, Sweat, and Tears big time, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Brian, it's so good to talk to you, man.
You too. We got to get together.
I would love it. I wish we came through Detroit on Ringo's Lester. We played Windsor the year before, but we didn't get to play the Midwest hardly at all this tour, so hopefully next time.
Well, we're going to hook up, man. I saw you in Sticks and Skins in the drum book.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The book. Sticks and Skins.
I got to tell you, you know, I haven't been playing for a number of years now, and I brought that book home and I showed my kids. They said, "Dad, how'd you get in there?"
I
said,
man, come on.
That's a
You
long
gotta be
story.
kidding. Six Excuses is that's such a, what a great book, and that's,
Yep.
you deserve to be in there, man. Come on.
Hey, Greg, one last thing. Congratulations. Your brother has replaced Bobby Birch and Elton John.
Well, buddy, nobody could ever replace Bobby, and I know that Matt, with tears in his eyes, he was talking to Davey, and Davey said, look, you know, I know you were so close to Bob. Bob was your student teacher, your bass hero, you know, and I know you want to really, you know, honor him. He said, but what would you think about being the bass player on this tour? And Matt, with tears in his eyes, just like, this is so awkward, you know. But Davey said, look, I know you're playing, I know you're singing. Nobody will ever replace Bob. Nobody can do what Bob did, just like, you know, nobody could do what Brian Testoria does. We're all individuals, but Matt just said, I'm honored to honor Bob, you know, and Michelle and Jonathan gave their blessing, and, you know, what a great honor for Matt. I know he left today for their first gig, I think, in Mississippi, I think, tomorrow, I think.
Yeah,
So-
they're in Jackson, right.
Jackson, yeah, but did you know Matt at all from Detroit?
I'm sorry.
Did you know Matt in Detroit?
You know what? I didn't, but I'm thinking Brian did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just knew Matt through Greg here, but, you know, I was just so happy that Matt got the gig because you're right, Bobby can't be replaced, but to get Matt, another Detroiter, on the road with one of the greatest artists of all time, Elton John, it makes us all proud. And his last name is Bissonette, so it's a beautiful thing.
Oh my gosh, what an honor for him, and what a groove that the Lions won today, man. I mean, if we all just jumped up and simultaneously, everybody in Bob's house just said, "That's for Bob!" By inspiration, you know.
That's what we said here. We were high-fiving too, and when they scored that touchdown, we were just getting ready to start the show here, and it was all about Bobby, man. They scored that touchdown. It was like, yes, that was
we all
for
had
Bobby.
our Bob Birch made in Detroit Alliance Brother Big Boy shirts on.
Yep.
And you know, one of the things Bob was the most excited about a year and a half ago, nothing will ever be like, you know, Detroit, Coney Island, but they built a place very close as they could to the, I think it was the cousins of the downtown folks, and they built one out here in Hollywood. And Bob said, Lou, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? He goes, they built a Detroit, Coney Island out in L.A. across from the, what used to be the
They
Central.
just did.
I forgot the name of the club. But anyway, man, I never got to go there with him, but he was so excited. Bob was all about Detroit, man.
Yes, he was.
Oh,
And that's why we're here, because we want to be all about Bobby today here in Detroit.
all about
He was a
Bob
beautiful
Detroit.
cat,
You betcha.
man. And we're here just to keep his memory alive and to celebrate the positive things in his life. And
Yes, I think one of the greatest things that I will ever remember was at his memorial when his wonderful 26-year-old son, Jonathan Hunter Burch, got up there and said, he kind of commanded us to do this. He said, guys, you know, you all knew my father, and my dad was really, you know, the greatest. And he says, what I want you to do a favor for me. And everyone was like, what? And he just said, you know, remember, don't be bummed out, be happy that you knew my dad for as long as you did, and just think about the great times and the great memories, and that's what you could do for me, as I think of my dad. Be happy that you knew him. And wow, how heavy is that, huh?
that's heavy, bro. That's it. That's
it.
I think that sums it up right there.
Well, I sure don't want to take anybody else's time here. I really appreciate you letting me talk so long. I really, really do. I know there's a lot of people that want to call in.
Well, Greg, thank you very much for calling in. We appreciate it. Enjoyed listening to you. My name's Bob Bauer. I don't know. You and I may have met a long time ago.
Okay, well, all right.
Right around the time of Adrenaline DC Drive back in the early 80s and so forth.
Yeah, I'm sure we did. That's great. I'm so glad you guys are doing this, man. So glad.
I like this guy. I could hang out with him.
Hey, same here, man.
He's
yeah,
the
let's
best.
go get Coney Island, and we'll let the Lions win next time.
All right, man. We love you, Greg.
See you, Greg.
Love you too. Thank you so much. We love you, Bob. We love you, man. And
Yes.
look at be cool, as he would say. All righty. Take care, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you so much. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.
I want to read this real quick. This is from Larry Green. Larry Green was the lead singer of Fortune. It was Bobby's first real big-time band. They were on MCA. Actually, they were on MCA at the same time Adrenaline was. And Larry Green's mother is very ill, and he wanted me to read this. He's in the hospital with his mother. He wrote, a year after the Fortune LP was released in '85, I went to work for Giorgio Moroder and was lucky enough to sing a song that went on a film and soundtrack, Top Gun. Everyone in the band at the time had to work courtesy of MCA as we were signed collectively and separately. Once it became clear that sales of the Fortune LP weren't going to equal the amount of money that was spent on it, I knew I was going to have to pay back MCA everything personally for my Top Gun royalties. As it turns out, the band members were still owed a few $1,000s each that hadn't been paid out for the actual LP session time. When Bobby found out that I was going to have to pay it all back myself, he refused to take his share. I tried to tell him not to worry about it, knowing how much we all needed the money, including Bobby. I know he and Michelle didn't have any money at the time, and Michelle was about to have their son, or he may have been born already, I can't remember, but I have often thought about how righteous a decision that was for him to forgo his portion so I would pay back less. Nearly every time we get together to work or play or just hang out, I would think about that time. Even now by myself, I think about it. I'm convinced to this day, if you believe in karma, along with his amazing abilities as a musician, that one example of his character is part of the reason we are all still talking about him and missing him. God bless you, my brother, and God bless your family. See you soon. From Larry Green.
And that is going to conclude our tribute today. And Jimmy Risk, Brian Pastoria, it's been a wonderful evening. Thank you for bringing me along in this ride. There's a whole bunch of people in this room I haven't seen in so many years. And it was a pleasure to hear your stories about Bob, because I didn't know him. And when I heard about his untimely death and I saw his picture, I recognized him.
He looks like a Romeo.
I mean, I knew who he was because I'd seen him in pictures with Elton. And so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you, Bob.
Pleasure was mine. Get out of here with a little bit of Billy Joel, Only the Good Die Young, on the UDetroit Radio Network at UDetroit.com. Have a good evening.
Come out, Virginia, don't let me wait. The Catholic girls start much too late. Oh, but sooner or later it comes down to fate. I might as well be the one. Well, they showed you a statue, told you to pray. They built you a temple and locked you away. Ah, but they never told you the price that you pay for things that you might have done. Only the good die young. That's what I said. Only the good die young. Only the good die young. You might have heard I run with a dangerous crowd. We ain't too pretty, we ain't too proud. We might be laughing a bit too loud. Oh, but that never hurt no one. So come on, Virginia, show me a sign. Send up a signal, I'll throw you the line. Stained glass curtain you're hiding behind never lets in the sun. Darling, only the good die young. Whoa, 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 whoa. I tell you, only the good die young. Only the good die young. You got a nice white dress and a party on your confirmation. Some say it's better, but I say it ain't. I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. The sinners are much more fun. You know that only the good die young. Oh, baby, I tell you, only the good die young. Only the good die young. Said your mother told you all that I could give you was a reputation. Oh, she never cared for me, but did she ever say a prayer for me? Oh, 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 come out, come out, come out, Virginia, don't let me wait. The Catholic girls start much too late. Sooner or later it comes down to fate. I might as well be the one. You know that only the good die young. Tell you, baby, you know that only the good die young. Only the good die young. Only the good, only the good die young. Ooh, 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 ooh.